Hey everyone, Greg here. As you may know by now, I'm the co-founder and CEO of TripShock, an online reseller for water sports and tours. For the past 12 years, we've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of operators across the country, and we're looking to grow our community. It's free to sign up, and you only pay when we bring you confirmed bookings. We'll help you reach new customers, fill empty seats, and grow your business like so many have done with us over the years. Head over to partners.tripshock.com to learn more about our program, read testimonials, or speak directly with our supply team. As always, thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
I'm saying you can crush it as a commodity, 100%. Like, I mean, if you buy something and you're like, man, I just want to get into this, I want to make some money. You know, I don't really want to be super hands-on. I want to hire a account. This is the guy I work with in Sandestin, and that was his thing. You know, he was the owner. It's like a restaurant, tour. You know, and he just bought it, and he hired a captain, hired a crew, and then, you know, waiting for the dividends to roll in. Now, anybody that's thinking about doing that, good luck, and God bless you.
They come to relax, enjoy the beach, have fun, and spend money. And that's where we come in. This is the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. Find out tips on the best ways to market and operate a water sports business. If you're a water sports operator, you need to grow your brand, operate more safely, upgrade your operations, and of course, increase bookings. We're industry veterans, broadcasting from Destin, Florida. This is the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast, and this is Kevin O'Neill and Greg Fisher.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Awkward Watersports Guy podcast.
Numero uno.
Yeah, actually it's episode 3 because the first 2 episodes we screwed up the sound. And
by we, you.
Yeah, I screwed up
but
the sound.
But you took the bull by the horns.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I sure did. This is our unscripted, uncut, raw show of water sport operations, marketing, all the good stuff that water sport operators want to hear, and we hope to be making businesses more money, help them operate better, and all that in between. I
hope that people from all walks, not just water sports, as obviously that's what we're geared to. We're both, thought leaders, as it were. I feel like, you know, in our industry, we both accumulatively between the two of us got quite a bit of time. But I think that ultimately, it's a lot of the stuff that we talk about is going to be applicable toward the, you know, strategies for any companies, but specifically water sports. This one, but hopefully anybody can gain some value from this. You know, if you're in business or, you know, looking to level up your marketing or level up your operations, I think there's going to be a lot of valuable information for a lot of different people, but specifically water adventures.
Absolutely. So this is our first show, and we have a really great topic we're going to talk about today. But before we get into that, Kevin and I just want to give a little bit about who we are and why we are in water sports, and that way there's some context to a lot of our conversations.
Yeah, we're not just like two guys that are like huge fans of like renting boats and water skiing. Yeah. We're huge enthusiasts.
Yeah, I bought a jet ski off Craigslist, and I just love it.
I just want a podcast
about my 1980 jet ski. So Kevin, just tell a little bit about yourself and how you got into water sports. And
that's a long story history. I hope you got a couple hours. I'm in business in my 3rd year in business. I had a little over 10 years in South Florida in Key West as a parasail captain. I worked for a large water sport company down there, and I came to Destin, and I wanted to get a break from madness of water sport life. So I'm like, I'll open up my own business. That should be easy. So that was basically it. Came to Destin and started off, and it's been a wild ride, man. I've learned a lot, and I've actually been able to teach a lot, and I've learned a lot, you know, from guys like you, and how about you, Mr. OTA?
Oh, yeah.
So, string of initials, PhD.
Yeah. So I started into the water sports, water tours about 11 years ago. My background before that was mostly hospitality and tourism. I worked in hotels, but I had an itching idea to sell activities online. And it wasn't a revolutionary idea, but back then it kind of was for this area. Partnered with a local businesswoman, and we formed TripShock, which is an online activity booking site for mostly water sports and tours. We do a little bit of everything. But right now we have about 400 businesses we represent in multiple destinations across the Southeast USA. And I absolutely have found a special place in my heart, I guess you could say, for water sports and water tours. Yeah, and I actually owned a jet ski operation in Orange Beach, Alabama. Had 15 skis at the height of it, and sold it a few years ago. But really have found a niche in it. I love it, and just everything about it. So
I think without like trying to sound braggadocious, I think what this podcast kind of came about is that like both of our businesses were able to scale relatively quickly. And I think they were able to scale quickly because we used a lot of the tactics and techniques of, e-commerce and these kind of like titans of industry in general. I know we both talked about reading Shoe Dog, Phil Knight, the owner, CEO of Nike. So I think me and Greg were able to be successful and scale our business quickly because we both had a passion for like knowledge and understanding and a thirst for business and wanted to learn as much as we could about it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great concepts in operations and marketing from other segments of travel or just other businesses in general.
Walmart.
But how can we take those and apply them to our business, our industry?
Yeah.
And it's like we deal with different problems. Like I had a conversation with somebody the other day. They run a walking tour in New Orleans, but do they deal with what happens after the walking tour? They just leave. Where we have to inspect equipment, we have to deal with angry customers because of damages or anything like that. I mean, we have a whole subset of issues that only our industry deals with. And, there really isn't anywhere that we can get information or have open dialogue about these issues. And this kind of prompted us to want to start a podcast and bring people in. And we're going to have guests on the show from all walks of the industry, from tech to operations. We hope you enjoy it and come back each week.
I want to note that. So when people tune in, like, who the hell are these guys? Who do they think they are? You know what I mean? I want this podcast to be for people that are looking to get into the industry, people that are looking to scale, people that are struggling with their marketing, with their branding, if they're thinking about anything. So this is for not just water sports people, mainly for water sports people. But if you're struggling to scale, you're struggling with operations, you're struggling with marketing, or you just want to level up, you feel like you got a good grasp on this game, but you want to wax with some guys and listen to some guys that are just like you and the mindset of you to think about this stuff constantly. So that's kind of want to bring a little context into not just who we are, but why we're doing what we're doing. And oddly enough, that last week we just started. We were kind of all over the place, and we just said, well, what can we like nail down for our first episode? We started talking about COVID, but it's just kind of like we're moving through that and getting on. So I don't know if you brought it up or I brought it up, but I think in that episode we were talking about branding versus commodity. So Greg, why don't you explain a little bit when you talk about branding versus commodity, like what that means to you?
So, thanks, Kevin. So our topic today is branding versus being a commodity business. And, if you're listening to this and like, what does all that mean? What does being a commodity business mean? And so a commodity business is something or a business that sells a product or a service. And take example, I mean, every business sells a product or service, but it's basically just that service. So, for example, if you sell jet ski rentals, the jet ski rental itself is a commodity, just like coffee is a commodity.
I was going to say coffee versus Folgers.
Yeah. So in Folgers is the brand, the coffee is the commodity.
Right.
And in our industry, there's a lot of businesses that are okay with just selling a jet ski.
We rent jet skis.
Yeah,
we rent
jet skis.
We do parasailing rides.
We do parasailing rides.
Yeah.
And And for some companies, that is completely okay.
That's all they need.
Because, for example, let's say that there's destinations that people go once every 5 years. Like I went to New Zealand. I may never go back to New Zealand in my life. So there's destinations that are very much, we sell bungee jumping.
Yeah.
They don't care about the brand because they know you're not going to come back and follow that company year over year on Facebook. They know what they're selling to people. But then you have businesses, I'd say like yourself, where you have lots of repeat customers, and those repeat customers are starting to develop your brand, Destiny Water Adventures. And they're going to want to come back and expect, the level of service, the level of quality, and that's branding.
Yeah. So it's like when you see on the side of the road, you're driving by and somebody's got like a sign up that says like food or hot dogs, or they got a flag flying, or they got a guy out there like holding a sign that says pizza, but McDonald's doesn't say burgers, it says McDonald's. That's a brand, Apple is a brand. These are huge brands. So when people, that's the difference. That's the difference between like McDonald's and say like Tops Hamburgers. Like to me, Tops Hamburgers, even though to me they're better than McDonald's, the Tops Hamburgers is like, oh look, it's a hamburger joint. Like McDonald's is a Titan. McDonald's is McDonald's. And so
you know what to expect wherever you go.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So the reason why this topic is important is because we realize in this industry that you can be both and succeed. You can be a commodity business and succeed. You can be a brand business, and also you can be somewhat of a hybrid and be okay. And we're going to go talk about the reasons why you'd want to be one or the other, and what you would do if you are one, maybe with your marketing or your operation. So let's start with this. Let's start with reasons for being a brand business. Why would you want to take your business to be a brand business?
I can't see why anybody that is actually not selling commodities would not, unless you're like, if you're a farmer and you're selling like corn, what I mean? Like that's great. But like in water sports, I feel like in water sports, like that should be ultimately your goal. Like moving forward, I can't see why anybody would not. And I'm such a brand guy, man. I cannot see and again, it's because for me, money comes second. And I always say it, I preach it to the choir. I look at everybody, I say, I don't give a shit, man. Money comes second to me. My brand comes first. My customer comes first. And as long as I follow with that methodology, then money will follow. Don't get me wrong. I pay attention to my margins because, I want to make money. You have to make money to survive. But money is always a number 2 concern to me. Like I'm always so customer focused, customer centric, because I can raise the prices next year. I can raise the prices down the pipeline if I want to, because as my brand increase, my brand value increases. So as long as I keep on pumping away at pushing my brand, then I feel like the money will follow. And I feel like the greatest of entrepreneurs have always, like Steve Jobs was not the richest man in the world, but Apple is the only company to reach a valuation of $1 trillion.
Well, let's talk more about maybe people, depending on where they are in their life, maybe the brand doesn't fit. And let me give you a couple of good examples. Let's say that you have a parasail boat and a few skis, and you have an opportunity to partner with a resort and service their guest. So and there's no public parking for new customers that you may get offline or off an internet or through phone. Everything's going to be off that resort. However, that resort has 1,000 people on any given day.
Okay.
There's no really ability to brand yourself because, one, you have to rely on the resort's guest. Their parking is only limited to really resort people. And I see this in Northwest Florida where operators really are not branding themselves because they're doing great just servicing the resort customers.
Right, but then they're always going to be attached to that resort for the rest of their career unless they find a secondary location. And you can still work on brand building while being tied to a resort, but it's just going to come down to customer reach out, how you deal with that. Like they might check in at the resort, but there's things you can do on the boat to capture their information and make sure that they understand that your business is autonomous from that resort. because again, and this is just me, and not everyone's going to think like me. You can have a company that can sit a resort for the next 20 years, and the dude sell off the contract with the resort for millions of dollars. Like, it's a dream come true for some providers to be at a resort. And I mean, if somebody offered me hey man, you can put you at a resort and this and this and that, but I would never ever stop figuring out how to deviate, because again, I would be thinking about my second location. But that's just the way I think. Some guys are straight owner operators. Like, I worked for a guy and he was in Sandestin, and he had zero branding. He just lived off of that resort, and he lived out there with that sale, and that's what he did. And he was happy with that. And then he also went out of business.
Yeah, and you're right. If you don't have any secondary, but let's say you have operators that their plan is to work 5 years and be done with it, and partnering. I mean, if that's their goal with their business, and I don't think it's bad to have that goal.
No,
because I mean, it's a hard business to be in, especially being out in the sun for 16 hours a day.
If you plan starting a business the way that you did in Orange Beach, Alabama, then if you go in there with a goal, I think that you are the very slim exception.
And I did, so yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. With my jet ski operation, I had it for 3 years, and I sold the business. But my goal really wasn't heavily on branding. My goal was to use TripShock, the online booking site, to push sales. Right. And when you sell with a concierge or a third party, typically they don't promote your brand.
Yeah.
They're promoting a jet ski rental. It's almost like it's the reseller's product, and not really, you're really just the vendor of that product. And you'll see if you visit TripShock, not that I'm trying to promote it, but if you go on TripShock, you'll see that a lot of the brand names are removed because, TripShock is trying to develop its brand.
Right.
So, and then, if
TripAdvisor did that too. And they even so much as they censored those people's listings. And I have a huge ethical issue. I take a huge issue with that. Like, I agree. But it's almost like Ticketmaster being like, come see this awesome rock band. And you're like, wait a minute, woo, you know what I mean? Is it Pearl Jam or is it something? They're a huge band from the 90s. You've definitely heard their music. You're going to love it. For fans of Alice in Chains and Soundgarden, come check it out. Like, is it
that's kind of like
Pearl Jam?
The whole tribute band thing. But, if you're really trying to, if you want to be a commodity business and you just want to drive volume and make a lot of money, then there are avenues for you. You can work with concierge and resellers. You can partner with the resort. And but if you are looking to go long term, if you want to be around for 10, 15, 20 years, you have got to start with branding, because branding isn't something that you start day one and then you're done.
I want to go on record saying you can crush it as a commodity, 100%. Like, I mean, if you buy something and you're like, man, I just want to get into this, I want to make some money. I don't really want to be super hands on. I want to hire a guy. That's the guy I work with in Sandestin, and that was his thing. He was the owner. It's like a restaurant, tour. And he just bought it, and he hired a captain, hired a crew, and then waiting for the dividends to roll in. Now, anybody that's thinking about doing that, good luck and God bless you. Because if you have no idea, like, you started Orange Beach, but at least you had an idea. You weren't just like, no, oh man, I'm going to get in this water sport game and make a ton of money. Like, I mean, this is definitely something. You got to know how to cook a little bit. You got to know something about cooking if you want to get into water sports. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, it can be done, but it's going to be a lot of money that's going to cost you on the front end. And if you do plan on being a commodity, like something that you're just going to get some checks and work with a resort, it's there. There's money to be made. It can definitely be a good thing and a great investment for you. But as far as like longevity goes, it could be a short thing. I mean, it could be 20 years. And then again, you could flip it and sell that contract. And I've got a friend in Key West and he's got a business. They got a great name. They got a site, but he doesn't do any branding. He's 100% commodity and he's absentee, but they struggle, man. He's struggling.
And typically with a commodity business, if I were to do the whole jet ski operation again, I would buy all used equipment, get it the cheapest, because I'm going to just run the equipment down. Because I don't care about my brand. I'm just getting new customers all the time.
Oh, Bubba.
Yeah, and I would. I would
do everything I could to talk you out of that.
I know. I would find. I mean, if I was like, let's say I was just looking to. I mean, it was not a good.
Don't
strategy.
care about reviews.
Yeah,
you don't care about.
And, there's a lot of operators that do that, but I would get all used equipment, and I would find a high volume location. I would work heavily with concierge and resellers, and I would really drive volume. And I wouldn't go and buy the best of the best, because when you're not a brand, what does it matter to have, all the best equipment in the world? I mean, as long as it runs and is safe.
Ooh, let me get into it. I'm on the operations side. Let me stop you.
Well, I'm talking good used equipment, right?
I want an investor. Like, can you give me some money on this deal that you want to do? I don't think have it and run away, because you're going to lose a ton of money. Because... yeah, no, so to me and I see guys that are doing this, okay? But they're killing themselves, man. They're out there, and if you're going to do that, then you better have a hell of a manager. You better have somebody, you better have such a great business plan put together, and understand that money's not going to be coming back to you for a long time. There's going to be a ton of headaches. So you not only you got to have the right manager, a great person, especially with used jet skis or something like that, or used boats. I see guys that are out there, they're standing in a sandbar changing fuel pumps. You're not going to find anybody. It's going to take you you're going to be out of business in a year. If you go and, yes, you buy all brand new stuff, you can still hire that same manager, $50,000 down the road, but at the same point in time, you're not going to have stuff breaking down. You're not going to have angry customers. And that's just not branding, though. That's you're leaving money out on the table now.
Yeah. Now, my experience was we did hire a really good manager, and we did take good care. And you're right, though, with skis especially, those used skis didn't have the life.
We bought parasail boats.
Yeah, I mean, we had 400 to 500 hours on each ski we bought used, but they were well maintained by the prior company. We got at least one season out of them, but for $1,500, $2,000 a ski, your profit margins are really good when you're doing that. But we did a few go down. We lost some money, and that's something that, as a new business, me not wanting to make all that investment in the front end worked great. The next year, I still looked at myself as a commodity business all the 3 years. The next year, I did buy new stuff, but I didn't buy the best stuff. If I was a brand and really focused my brand, where I'm telling people we're buying new equipment, I would have bought the VX110, extended models. I wouldn't have bought the EX cheapy ones.
So now, so that's jet skis. Now let's if you move that into parasail. All right, somebody goes and buys a used parasail boat. I mean, that could be game over, man. I had a friend, my business partner. He started a parasail company. He bought this beat down boat, threw everything into it. They went out there, they parasailed for 2-3 days. Boom, engine went down. He had no money. He needed $25,000. This is back in the gas days when you could get a Mercury 496 on a parasail boat. Now, an engine package is $60,000. So yeah, you could say you can go out and buy some used POS for $100,000 and go, yeah, man, I'm going to parasail. I'm going to hire a captain. We're going to crush it. But I have seen more operators with that idea go out of business, especially in parasail. Like that. Yeah. 1 year, done, game over. So boats, rentals, that's a little different. The jet ski game, I would highly advise against that as far as because the thing is, get through your first year, learn as much as you can about it, not have a ton of breakdowns. I bought a bunch of new stuff, and I bought crappy, cheapy skis, and you know where those are? They're all in my backyard right now, sunk, destroyed, because I didn't want to spend the money.
This is my first foray into being a water sport owner. I mean, I've booked thousands of rentals before that, but this is my first foray.
Why'd you sell it?
And I did. Why did I sell it?
Because it was a nightmare.
Well, it's not so much a nightmare, but it was I wasn't committed 100% to it.
Right.
I'm the CEO of a company with 50 employees, so I couldn't.
Because you care about what?
Into it.
Longevity and
I
future
care about longevity,
and branding.
Yeah, the brand of Trip
So
Shop.
I get it. I
it
get
was
where you are with
and it helped me really understand how a water sport company runs, and I got a lot of great stories to share with this podcast because of it. But that was the thing. If I was putting 100% of my time into it, it definitely would have been a brand from day one. But I knew the objective, what I wanted to do with it. I wanted to build it up and eventually sell it. And that's where I focused my attention on, is just putting volume out. And we started off light. We bought used skis because maybe I wasn't going to be around a year. Yeah. So I didn't want to put so much, but I bought good used skis. And
I'll put it out there right now. For anybody listening right now, if you have very specific questions, because each one of these things are different. So water sports, we get lumped into this whole thing. You know, somebody asked on the Let's Talk Destin page, which I love trolling, by the way. And you'll see all the owners and operators putting their things in there. I never do. If you ever see me post in there, click on it. I promise worth that price of admission. Somebody posted in there. They're like, who's the best water sport company? And this is how crazy I am about branding. Oh my God. This is why I'm nuts about branding, because I hate the term water sports. Yeah. And that's why I'm Destiny Water Adventures. Ding, plug. But water sport, I'm like, I came in first at getting drunk on a pontoon 9 days in a row. And then I came in second at trying to regain sickness. So I'm crazy about branding. Like, I won't even call myself a water sport company because I'm literally trying to rebrand water sports. So if anybody's got any questions specifically about used or new gear and you want to slide into my DMs, you can find me at info at Destiny Water Adventures or Kevin at Destiny Water Adventures. And you have some specific questions about specific gear, because water sports, jet skis versus parasail versus like kayaks versus paddle boards. Like Greg is absolutely right. You can come in low cost on certain things and crush it. Other things, and depending on the engine types, like depending on the hours, like there's going to be a myriad of factors that if you plan on coming in as a commodity, Greg is right. Yes, you can use OTAs, you can buy used gear, you have a great location, you can get a contract with the concierge and absolutely come in and smash it and make a ton of money, flip it, and get out. I feel that probably the majority of our listeners are probably going to be brand builders. I mean, there might be the occasional person that wants to like, hey, let me see if I can get in water sports and flip it. But if you guys got questions, you got commodity wise, and you want some specifics on parasail boats or different kind of engines and jet skis, you can hit me up at Kevin at Destiny Water Adventures, the info at Destiny Water Adventures. It might take me a while to get back to you because I'm incredibly busy with my business, but and if you need somebody to help you sell that, you can also reach out to Greg at tripshock.com.
Yep.
Greg at tripshock.com. Greg is ground floor OTA operator. When you partner up, he was the first voice I heard on the phone when I wanted to partner with somebody for an OTA. I will always stop Greg. And Greg, I hope will stop me if we ever try to start selling our businesses on this podcast. We might not be able to help it. I'm a huge fan of his. He's a huge fan of mine. But yeah, if you want to sell volume, Greg is really good at that. If you guys got some questions about operations, or branding or direct marketing, you can ask me too as well.
So let's talk about, why would you want to be a brand business? Because, obviously we know we want to be a brand business because of repeat customers, but more so of, what are the reasons more beyond that? And, one thing what gets me is why companies do not want to be brands is that as you develop it, it's going to lower the costs to bring new customers, because getting new customers is expensive. Unless you're in a high volume location with a ton of walk-up.
I can answer you real fast why you want a brand. Because if you're coming in this business and you wanna create something for the future and you love what you do, because again, I feel like water sports is a passion project for a lot of people too. They want to make money, but it becomes a passion. You like Ben was not like, he was a serial entrepreneur and now he's a stone cold water sports guy, man. He hit that backflip on that hydroflight board and that was it. So because either you get into it, I mean, God, we could talk for another hour and a half, but I'll sum it up like this. If you want to if you plan on putting 20 years into something, if you want to put something that's going to be around after you're gone, something for your kids, something for your children, something that down the line you will eventually the acquisition cost of acquiring a customer will get less and less and less and less. But building a brand is a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot of dedication, and it takes a lot of focus, and it takes a lot of passion. And I don't care if you're branding plumbing or you're branding whatever, hamburgers, toothpicks. Building a brand is just as much work, if not more, as doing selling commodities.
And you know what's interesting? When you build a brand, you'll notice over time your pricing will go up.
Absolutely.
At a faster rate than if you're a commodity business. If you're a commodity business, the likelihood of your pricing increasing as you become more established is not as likely. And I see several examples of companies that we've been working with for 10 years. Their pricing increases much slower than the ones that really work on their brand. Because when the more people that are coming back year after year, they had such a good memory. They're okay with paying a little bit more because they know you got good equipment, you got a good captain that puts on a good show. I mean, if there's a few dollars difference between a competitor that they never heard of, they're going to go with you. So, yeah, it might cost a little bit on the front end to make sure your website looks the way it needs to be. You got a good logo. Your team is dressed with, the company shirts when they walk up. I mean, there's a lot of things that play into becoming a brand business. Also, your trademark is an appreciating asset.
That's right.
You don't realize that, but you run a company for 20 years and you have 1 million emails in your database. If you have a customer, now with Reservation Tech, you can create a customer database of what they've done in the previous. That is all valuable stuff.
Yeah.
Like just imagine, and that's
your website.
I mean, I can see businesses selling just their customer list and their website for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
For a layman, here you go. Go see what it costs to buy a building or to lease a building and start a hamburger restaurant, and see what it's going to cost you to do that. See what it costs to buy a fucking McDonald's franchise. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's ridiculous. And you could probably start like $50,000 a hamburger stand, but McDonald's like $500,000, whatever, $1 million.
Yeah.
So the intangibles that Greg's talking about, just that logo, that McDonald's logo is worth millions of dollars. For you to put that and say that that's who you are, that logo alone, for you able to use that, the intangible benefits of that come at a very high monetary value.
And then, so if you choose to be a brand business and that's your goal, and maybe your priorities change. Maybe you start off as a commodity business just to get your feet wet, and you don't want to put too much into it. And then you realize year two or three, you're like, okay, I want to build this into a brand.
How?
Yeah.
How do they do it? How do you brand then?
So, that's a very loaded question, but for the 45 minutes of our show, the first thing I would start with the brand, and I think you would agree with me, is a logo.
Yeah.
Is a logo
100%.
And a name. And when you choose that name, do not choose it lightly. Make sure the name is natural and it embodies what you do. You spend some time in that logo because that's what you're going to go with potentially for the rest of your life. Look at Sunset Watersports in Key West. The logo hasn't changed in
30 years.
30
or something
years.
like that.
And whether or not it's a modern logo, and it's contemporary to what people. I'm sure people go to Key West every year and they look at that logo and they're like, we know what that is. That is Sunset Watersports, and we've been there before. So make sure that logo speaks to you and something you're going to stick with. That's the first thing I would start with. The second thing is making sure that you have a holistic view of how you want to brand. So when I say holistic, that means your team is wearing shirts that have your logos on it. Your website looks good and it looks quality. Your equipment is branded where that actually is another whole conversation whether or not you brand your equipment. But
I don't.
But everything is just meant so your logo is everywhere. Like people know when that logo is on that equipment or it's on your employee's shirt, like this is, this is the quality.
Let me jump in. So here's a great example of a company transitioning from a commodity to a brand. Now, initially they were trying to brand, but I had a long, extensive conversation with them. I'm going to go ahead and plug one of my evil enemies. So they're one of your partners, Jenny Lou Pontoon. Okay, this company's called Jenny Lou Pontoon. They spell it JENNIELOU, and that is a very different way. Most people spell Jenny like Forrest Gump, Jenny. JENNY. So every time I was trying to tell people about this company, they would be like, I would have to spell it. And then it was like more time for me on my phone. And I'm like, when I'm busy, I got to go. So I'll be like, just Google Jenny Lou Pontoon. And I'll be like, well, it's JENNIE because I want them to get the boat. They're our family run business, whatever. So I yelled at their owner about it. I'm like, you got a great product. You got a great company. His wife is Jenny Lou. And he named it after her because they have a great relationship. So you got this great company, family run business, great customer service, zero branding. I can't even get people to your website because they're spelling it wrong. And he took that to heart. And so they bought another website. They're still Jenny Lou Pontoon, but he bought a website called Pink Pontoon. And then he did the bottom paint of his boat pink, and he put pinkpontoon.com. Now that is a great idea. And then he had signs everywhere that said pontoon rental. So that is a great transition from a commodity business to now they're working on their brand. Now everyone's going to see them pink pontoons, man. That's what he says. I said that was a great idea, dude.
That's a really
Brilliant.
good idea. Yeah.
You know, super good. And he had the foresight to like listen to another guy that's been in the game a little bit longer than him, and you know how people get competitive. But regardless, so as Greg said, a great logo, a great website. You can actually create a lot of brand awareness for very cheap, and a lot of people I don't think are utilizing this using this today. But you can run engagement campaigns on Instagram and Facebook, like we were talking last time about, like branding using a billboard. Like big dogs use billboards for branding purposes because they're so expensive and the ROI on it is so slim. But now you can run engagement campaigns on Facebook and Instagram, and even cheaper. You can like start hitting them young, going at TikTok, Snapchat. I mean, for pennies on the dollar, and run engagement campaigns and run brand awareness campaigns and really dial it in even to the customer base.
And that's probably going to be in another podcast going deep dive into Facebook ads. But you're right. I
Shirts,
mean, you don't have
stickers, Gorilla. I go right into the internet.
Just because your big competitor can afford 5 billboards doesn't mean that you still can't brand. You can brand internally.
You can reach 9. You can reach 9 times the amount of people on that billboard with social media marketing. Like I can't, and I'm not like maybe in episode 100 I'll be like, check out Kevin's social media direct marketing, but I'm not marketing or selling marketing services, but I'll tell you what, taking a little bit of time and running an engagement campaign for people in your area, for locals, people know who you are, having nice shirts, having some stickers, having some swag, if you want to create a brand, and that's just an awesome thing to give to a customer at the end. I have customers that, and I always forget I have the stickers laying around, but someone will be like, oh, my name's Destiny, and I'm like, I got something for you, here's a sticker, but they should all be getting it.
Honestly, one of my favorite brands just locally here in Northwest Florida is 38.com, and they have done a phenomenal job. And really what's done it is those darn stickers in the car. I mean, I was in Niagara Falls for my wedding 10 years ago, and I was seeing people with the stickers on their car, on fence posts, everything. I'm like, wow, it got that far up here.
Yeah.
And I mean, what did it cost them to print out those stickers? And they even charge for them now, and they give to charity.
Yeah, the little sun on it.
The little sun on it. So, I mean, just because your competitors are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on billboards and print ads and all that, you can still work on your brand. You can print T-shirts.
Let me jump in. I got to jump in again. But water sports are not, though. Yeah. I mean, we talk about it, but and especially here, we're dealing with a ton of commodity-based businesses. Yeah. That's why, like, when I first looked at this market, I was like, dude, I could build a brand here. Like, everyone's just like, we sell pontoons, we do parasails. Like, they have names, but it's they're not like attacking it. So in water sports, especially, you have at this moment in time, and it's not going to be like this forever, more younger entrepreneurs will take over. Will know this stuff, and if you're not doing it, you will be left in the dust. But very few companies are building brand at the lower levels of a family-run business. If you're doing under 6 figures, if you're doing in the low hundreds, nobody's thinking about that shit when they're trying to put food on the table and pay the bills, and your water sports company is maybe netting you 25 or 30 grand a year.
The first thing they do when things are tough is they lower their price.
No, we won't get into that. Exactly, that's another topic.
But that is when you're teetering on that commodity versus brand. Right. When you start, and the first thing you do is lower your price. Yeah. When something goes wrong, you are thinking like a commodity business.
Yeah, absolutely.
A brand business will add value.
100%.
And when I say that, a good example would be you'd add a kayak, to the value, to add value. But when you lower your price, that really kills your brand.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's hard to come back from that. You can always lower your price. It's really hard to raise them. I mean, depending on how you're reaching out to the market, you can pretty much do whatever you want through A and B testing and looking. But again, another longer topic, deeper dive topic. But I will say that again. Some stickers, you don't need a million of them. Some nice T-shirts for your employees to wear. And then, start messing around on Facebook. Even if you're not running a campaign, you can always be dropping your brand in there and learning how that stuff works. Like Instagram is severely undervalued. Snapchat's severely undervalued. TikTok is severely undervalued. And you can get in there for pennies on the dollars and run brand awareness campaigns. If that's what you want to do, because it can get very, very, very expensive to do that. But in the long run, I feel that by the time you've invested that money and that time and that work, then your acquisition, what it costs you to put a customer on your boat, it's going to just, those numbers are just, the margins are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until eventually, your brand, I mean, you're still going to always advertise, you're still going to market, you're still going to be out there mixing it up, but you're going to be a household name, at least in your small community, which can lead to such lower costs, because if somebody's like, yeah, we go to Destiny Water Adventures every single year, and they tell their mom that, and their mom tells that word of mouth is so much easier to achieve in today's super information age.
And they're not going to go to your site and say, oh, I'm going to look for a lower price because they're already sold on the referral.
They're done.
They're sold. They know. I mean, I tell you, the experience and the memory and the reviews too. I mean, that all plays into a fact. And when you're a brand, reputation management is something that you have to take serious. Because if people are leaving reviews, good or bad, you have to get on there and start responding to them, because everything you do that's under your name, no matter if it's on your website or on TripAdvisor or even TripShock, you have to maintain that brand integrity, let them know that there's a voice and you care, and that goes a long way.
Because I'll tell you what, they damn sure remember your name when you don't do a good job. That's for sure. I've had reviews where they were like, Destiny Water Adventures, they killed my children. That's not true. I didn't kill their children, but they knew my name. They're like, Destiny. I'm like, damn it, I did too good for branding. It was actually a very recent one. It's like one of the 3 1-star reviews we have, but it popped up on TripShock. So I think like reputation management, like, that it is 100%. We could do a 15-minute, and we should probably leave it at that, because I think I could do a 15-minute deep dive on reputation management.
So let's just sum it up, because we're at about 40 minutes here. Final thoughts on branding versus commodity.
Well, I love building stuff, and I've told you this 100 times, and I've said it in this episode 100 times. I put money second. I love building things. That's why I'm an entrepreneur. That's why I love working in water sports. I love building shit. So building my brand is the most favorite part of my business, because it is my unique message, my unique story. My brand is a representation of me. So I think as far as a commodity-based business, unless I was just getting to like an off-season, like a pressure washer thing to make a little bit of extra money on the side, like that is, but again, like I'm building something for the future, and it's hard for me to ever get taken away into thinking against something like along those lines. Well, let me get into investing. Let me get into this, because it takes my time away from what I'm passionate about and what I love doing, which is Destiny Water Adventures. So I think if you're going to get into this game, yes, you can make some money as a commodity, but I think overall, if you looked at the data, that I think you're going to see more people are going to fail. You're the exception and not the rule. So build your brand, care about your brand, care about what you're selling, because it's going to make you more money in the long run. So
if you're no matter if you're a brand or commodity, there's no wrong way of doing it. You just need to know your objectives from the start. If your objective is to build a long-lasting company, become a brand and start from square one. If you want to be a commodity business, have a plan. Is it 3, 5, 7 years? Partner, find a high volume location. Find maybe some good partners and resellers. Find maybe a resort to come in. Those are things that you're going to have to be very focused on. And you can do this if you're a brand regardless, but if you're a commodity, you really have to rely on these things. And so it doesn't really matter which way you go, but definitely brand is where I would want to fall in if I'm going to grow a long company. If you don't have the money, That's okay. There's other things to do to get your brand out there early on. There's things you can do just internally by wearing T-shirts and marking your boats and having a good signage, getting a good logo, making a good website. So these things don't cost a lot of money. And over time, and I see this with lots of companies, over time, your acquisition costs will be lower. You're going to be able to charge more, and you're going to be a much happier operator. You're gonna get those repeat customers, and you're gonna be building something special, like Kevin said, that you can hand down to your kids, or even sell it for much more than if it would be a commodity business. So typically we would have some Q&A since our first episode. We'll just go ahead and skip that, but we hope that we'll get some great questions.
We need some phones for some callers.
Some callers. That'd be cool if we had like a phone. They can call in.
Like nobody could be like one person, the same person every week.
Brad
again.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be like some jerk asking some questions.
I'd like to leave it here, man. If you got any questions about any of this stuff, you can. Right now, we don't have any way of reaching us at the moment. We're gonna have a website here shortly. You can find me on Facebook at Destiny Water Adventures. You can find me on Instagram at Destiny Water Adventures. You can hit up my email, info@Destiny Water Adventures, or Kevin at Destiny Water Adventures.
And you can join our Facebook group. Yeah.
You can join our Facebook group. I completely forgot. It is Florida Watersports. We're going to change it to something more catchier, but we're just
Watersports of Florida.
Watersports of Florida.
Watersports of Florida.
I started the group, but I don't know the name of it.
And you can reach me, Greg at tripshock.com, for any questions you have about the show, or if you want to be a guest on the show. If you want to be a guest. We have a guest. Yeah. And we look forward to providing lots of great future shows for you.
Yeah. I don't know. I think this is our best one.
Yeah.
So that's it. We're out of here. Thanks for listening, guys. And we will catch you guys on the next one with the Awkward Watersports Guys.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. If you're in the water sport industry, this is the podcast that brings the business perspective to parasailing, jet and ski boat rentals, sailing, snorkeling, and everything else. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. Be sure to sign up to our email list at watersportpodcast.com and subscribe in your favorite podcast app. We'll see you next time, and thanks for listening.